Hi folks, I just wanted to catch up with you because it dawned on me recently that I don't actually get to talk about the kind of bikes I ride on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you were to ask me the question, what e-bikes do I like riding the most? Well, genuinely, I like riding all e-mounted bikes that I ever sling a leg over, but there is definitely a certain type of e-bike that I like. And I think genuinely that the Caynon Spectral on CFR does tick a lot of those boxes. It certainly has the components and characteristics that work for me. Okay, what are those golden ingredients then? Well, I think simplicity, agility, balance and range. And I think those apply to any bike, not just the Caynon Spectral on CFR, which is a partner bike on the channel. You'll notice there that I didn't actually mention power or motor. And the reason for that is that, look, I'm 90 kilos, I'm never going to win a power stage. That all comes down to the weight of the rider, obviously, and some riding skill as well. That doesn't mean to say that I don't enjoy any motor, because I think it's all about the interaction of how you interpret how to get the most out of a motor on the trail. This bike's got a Shimano. I love riding Bosch, I like riding Yamaha, Bafang, you name it. I think it's all about you learning how to ride that motor. But those other things which I mentioned, the 4 golden parts, I think if you haven't got them, it really doesn't matter what motor you've got. Okay, what about the shape and the purpose of the bike? Now the trails I ride at home they're pretty tough, but they're not super tough. Now, I think 150, 160 travel is just the right amount of travel. I think 170, 180 is possibly too much travel for a bike in the terrain I ride. The same if you ride in the Surrey Hills, you simply don't need that amount of travel. What I think it's all about the connection with the trail. I like to be part of, not apart from the trail. So I think just having just the right amount of travel is quite key. Now look, if I was going on an all-out attack mission on the trails of San Remo, yes, I probably would want 170, 180, but I genuinely believe this, that a good 150, 160 bike is great for a lot of the riding that I do. The numbers, the angles: head angle 65.5, seat tube angle 76.5, chainstay 440, and I actually like riding the size XL bike. I can ride the L, but I think the XL does it for me. And the reason for that is the fact that because it's got a short chainstay, I do like the longer front center on this bike. And the front center is the measurement from the middle of the bottom bracket to the front axle. Now it's just a coincidence, but another bike I really like riding, the Trek Rail, has got a similar front center length to it. Oh, and the bottom bracket is pretty low, which means this bike can tear corners apart. This has got the Shimano EP8 motor on it. I love the way it spins. It's also got the 2 custom profiles. The trail mode on it is just right. And true, it hasn't got as much power as, say, a Bosch, but I'm not racing, so I don't need that power. It's a bit like suspension travel. I don't need all that suspension travel. That doesn't mean to say for 1 minute that I don't enjoy learning how to use and ride every motor. Okay, the fork and the shock. All right, I'm gonna be totally honest with you here, right? Now this bike has got high and low speed rebound and high and low speed compression in the fork. I think for me, it's too much adjustment. I'll come on to that in a bit. On the back, we've got an air shock there. It's got high and low speed compression and rebound. I actually prefer the simpler fork to this fork. And the reason for that is that I like to work in a certain range, and I think there's more chance of me having a bad day than being 1 or 2 clicks out on the suspension adjustments. Now, the reason for that is now I raced downhill for many years, and I think if you've got one track and you can work on your suspension settings for one track, that's great. You can get the optimum setup. But when you're riding a 150 bike, you might be out on a wet day, a dry day, you might have a backpack, no backpack. So I think working within a certain range is a good thing. And I prefer riding rather than fanning about. Simple as that. However, one thing which I will get right, and that is the air pressure, the sag in both the fork and the shock. I think that is crucial. It's probably worth mentioning that I did have the option of riding the flight attendant Caynon CFR, but I actually like to be in control of what's happening on the trail and the suspension, so that's why I've gone for the non-adjust version with Fox on it. Gearing is next. Now, I actually like the 12-speed XTR here because, and the reason for that is I actually like the click. I like that click of a gear when you're tackling a technical climb, and I think as good as the SRAM Axis is, it's so quiet and it's so fine that sometimes you don't know if it's actually engaged into gear when you're in the middle of a stream section. So XTR for me every day of the week. Hey look, don't get me wrong, I'm more than happy to run Shimano SLX or XT, or indeed some of the SRAM shifting as well, but it has to be manual and not electronic. Tyres, Pirelli, I'm on the 2.6 Scorpions, S and M's. Now what I like is the big volume tyre. This tyre's got a really strong sidewall on it, so I can run low pressures if I'm doing an extended technical climb. In terms of the pressure, now you might see that sometimes we've been top of a mountain. I guarantee you I'll be on maybe 35 to 40 psi, but the reason for that is I don't want to get punctures. But that's all now changed because I've gone tubeless thanks to my mate Steve Pete. Now the reason I haven't been gone tubeless up until now is the fact that I've been continually changing tyres due to the changing conditions. But it's a fresh start for me in tubeless, I have to say. I think braking is arguably one of the most important component parts to an e-mountain bike. I think it's about the delivery and performance of the power is critical. Now, 200mm rotors, 4-piston brakes. Look, it's not as important here in the UK as it is in the Alps, but I think those two parts are super important. Now, when it comes to the brake choice, I really like the Shimano system, either the XT or the XTR, but I also like the Magura MT6 and MT7 as well. Wheel size, blah, blah, blah. 29, 27.5, 29, 29, 27.5. Look, I don't actually think that one setup is necessarily better than the other. I think they're just different, and they require you, the rider, to adapt different riding styles to get the best out of both. I actually like the 29, 27.5, especially if it's on steeper terrain. However, if things were super steep, then I probably would try to avoid the 29 in the rear, simply because I'd probably buzz my back wheel. It doesn't mean to say I wouldn't be able to ride super steep terrain. And then when I'm climbing, if there's a super long, extended technical climb, I do think that 29 is a good setup because of that rollover, especially on rocky, steppy ground. Handlebars, an aluminium handlebar on there and a 35mm stem. These are both stock, 780 widths, 30mm rise. Ergon grips, you'll see that I've not got an e-bike specific seat on this bike, and the reason for that is that so you can get nice ergon in the pictures. Seriously, I think it works for me. Fox transfer seat dropper, again, it's not electronic. I think it's great. You could argue that the reverb axis is marginally better, but it's not on this bike. I'm not going to rush out to get one. Crank size, 165. Again, I could probably ride a 160 or a 155. Have a look at the video we've done on crank length. I think crank length is a massive subject, and I think there is definitely something in it. What else have we got? Oh yeah, I think the display and the remote there. I run this bike in stock settings. It's in profile 1. I just leave it and it's great. I think we've covered it all. Caynon Spectral. It's got the right angles, it's got the right travel, it's got the right wheel size for me. It's a type of bike. I think there's many other bikes out there which will meet the geometry numbers. But one thing which it will not, but other bikes might not do, is the thing which I've not mentioned is the battery capacity. There's a 900 watt hour battery in this bike. You can run it with a 722. It is super easy to change the battery, which is critical. But more than anything, and I've left this to last, is that this bike is possibly one of, or possibly the most agile e-mounted bike I have ever ridden. And that's credit to Caynon and the way they've tinkered with that suspension setting over the years. So for me, that one point, agility, is massively crucial. Folks, thanks for watching. Just hit me with any questions you can in terms of bikes or bike setup. I've done another video on some of my favorite bikes of 2023. Have a look at that video. But for now, let me go and ride the bike. Just let me go and ride the bike. I'll see you next time.